I'd like to introduce Patricia. So, Patricia Rowe Seale is from Barbados, and she is a seasoned risk management and cybersecurity expert with over 20 years of experience in internal audit, IT risk management, governance, and compliance. As a former Chief Information Security Officer at CIBC Caribbean, she led transformative initiatives, including a multi-year cybersecurity program and the establishment of a comprehensive third-party risk assessment framework. Committed to professional and community development, Patricia is affiliated with the global organizations such as the Institute of Internal Auditors and ISACA. She has also served as a volunteer instructor and committee member, contributing to the growth of her profession. Patricia, particularly in the area of cybersecurity and operations and management as well, we would be very happy to hear your thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Good morning to everybody. When I heard Shiva's talk, I said, well, maybe I don't need to say anything, right? Very well done, but I'll try. So I'm sort of going to focus my discussion around how AI and cybersecurity mashes together, how it goes there. So when we think of AI from a cybersecurity perspective, I like to say it's a two-edged sword. One edge of the sword can be soothing, the other edge can cause some damage. And Shiva would have mentioned some of those things from a damage perspective, but you have the availability of a number of AI models, like it's a GPT. So you have some called fraud GPT, sword, not sword, sorry, wolf GPT, and there are a couple out there that are models that were specifically designed for nefarious activities. And so it makes, from a cybersecurity perspective and from a governance perspective, it has made it a whole lot easier for attacks to occur. Shiva would have mentioned, increases in ransomware. The phishing campaigns that one would have seen before are now real. Before you saw a phishing campaign, you had words spelled incorrectly, you had clunky sentence construction. But now you can't recognize that this is a piece of a malware because they're using AI to really construct some really valuable looking emails. So the campaign is a problem. And it goes on. And the one that we would have heard a lot about last year would have been a ransomware. I think every island within the Caribbean would have been hit with at least one or two attacks for governments or large corporations, the ones that we would have been able to talk about. Shiva mentioned deepfakes. So now you see the negative side of AI from a cybersecurity perspective. What can we do? What is the responsibilities of board members in terms to give them that comfort and that assurance that their organization is aware and not only being aware, but they're effectively managing. So one of the things I think from a board perspective that the board have to be very cognizant of is what is the cybersecurity strategy? Is this strategy comprehensive? Has it been relooked based on things that are happening within the environment, within the industry? How are you operationalizing this strategy? Do you have the right skill sets? Do you have sufficient finances? How are you reporting to me, the board? How are you reporting to the board in terms of how does the board know whether or not this strategy is really working? So what are your KPIs? What are your KRIs? How often are you going to report this to the board? So those are some of the things that you would need to look at. But then when we think of so that is where the board sits and would need to get that information. But as I mentioned at the very beginning, AI in cybersecurity is a two-edged sword. So we talk about the negative edge there. But for years, more than 5 years, maybe close to 10 years, the number of security tools and security postures that can be stood up that is using some method of AI. It might not be generative AI, but it may be something based on behavior analytics. So we know that ransomware has become sophisticated and hard to detect by the human eye, given the advances of AI. So then you need to have something within your environment, within your email system, within your data structure system, data security systems that is able to counter that. So we look at so the questions the board will be asking, what are you using to counter these advances that are coming through to us from an AI perspective? And one thing that we can look at that we would have seen in past would be within your email gateway, you can have some measure of behavioral analytics. So it looks at the sender, it looks at the user, it looks at the type of the email, the timing, the content, and say, you know what, this looks suspicious. Don't let us deliver this to the particular user mailbox. We park it somewhere and we do some more research on it also. Or in some cases, depending on how your tool is set up, it may be a case where you just delete it immediately. Then you have network traffic. For ransomware to be effective, well, let me rephrase that. For data to leave your environment, it has to go through some path. It has to find its way out of the environment. So if you have tools within your environment that employ some measure of AI and the varying types of AI models it it can employ, it will be able to say this traffic is unusual. This traffic leaving from Patricia's laptop going over to this particular domain is not normal traffic. That is not the behavior that we expect to see of a clerk or accountant or whatever, lawyer. So that traffic is blocked. So from a board perspective, the board needs to see that management has done their risk assessment. They understand the risk that are posed as a result of the enhances and the use of AI, and they understand what are the countermeasures, and they get regular reporting on this, right? And there's some risks that management, senior management might want to be aware of, or the board, like what are the data risks? With AI models, there's going to be some data being fed in and being manipulated. Do you have if your organization is actually using AI for the business activities, do you have the right authority to use the data? Do you know how the data is being used? If your AI model is sitting in the cloud, do you understand exactly how that is being managed? Who manages where it's sitting? Are you compliant with all the data protection legislation within your particular jurisdiction and from whom you've collected data? So you got to be understand that, and then you have to look at if model risk. Is this model performing the way it's supposed to perform? The data that was used to train this model is that data the right type of data? Do we know whether or not malactors have access to the model so that they can poison the model and inject data so that the results that we are expecting we don't really get because the data has been manipulated in some form or fashion? And then we look at the operational risk associated with any models that might be in use. Can you sustain this model? Do you have the infrastructure? Because the model is not going to stay static. It would grow and it would develop. Can you sustain the model going forward? Um, do you understand what an incident look like in this new space? And do you have the wherewithal, the skill sets and the infrastructure, whatever you need to manage an incident? Because first you have to be able to detect it, then you need to be able to manage it, and then you need to be able to recover from the incident. So can you do that? And Shiva would have also mentioned a lot about the ethical and legal issues, and those don't go anywhere. You have to be able to report to the board. We are aware of these ethical and legal issues, and this is how we senior management is managing and governing in this space. So those were just some of the things I would leave there for now. Um, Thank you.